Hi, I'm Delia. My sister once texted me, "You'll die poor." She said it like a curse, right after taking Mom's house, rewriting the will, and telling the world I was nothing. I stayed silent until the bank called. $186 million, my name on it. That's when I realized, she didn't just steal money. She stole years of my life. But she never saw what was coming next. The sun hadn't fully crept over the horizon yet. I was standing in my kitchen, barefoot, the linoleum cool under my feet. The smell of coffee was just starting to drift through the air, my cat weaving between my ankles, impatient for breakfast. It was just another quiet Arizona morning. Until it wasn't. I picked up my phone, scrolling through overnight notifications, junk emails, pharmacy reminder, a weather update. Then I saw it. A text. From Marlena. "You'll die poor. That's what you deserve." My hand froze mid-scroll. My thumb hovered above the screen, but I didn't move. I didn't respond. I didn't delete it. I just stood there, blinking, like somehow the message would rewrite itself if I stared long enough. It didn't. That text wasn't surprising, no, not from her. But it hit harder than usual. Maybe because I was tired. Maybe because it was too early for venom. Or maybe because, deep down, I believed her. Just a little. I placed the phone down slowly, poured a cup of coffee, and stared at the wall. My face was calm, still. But inside, something cracked. I've spent a lifetime patching those cracks. She's always known where to press. Marlena's been my older sister for 45 years. And my bully for almost as long. We weren't born into a Hallmark family. I was the youngest, the extra mouth, the afterthought. Marlena was the one with the straight A's, the homecoming crown, the framed diplomas. I was the kid they forgot to pick up from band practice. She used to say things like, "Don't expect too much, Maddie. You're not built for big things." Back then, I laughed it off. Thought maybe it was just tough love. But love doesn't rot you from the inside out. One Christmas, I remember asking for a guitar. I found socks and deodorant under the tree. Marlena got a brand new laptop. I was 16. College? I filled out applications alone. Drove myself to campus visits. Mom and Dad couldn't come. Busy, they said. Marlena said nothing at all. And now, as a part-time home care nurse at 43, I wake up every day to clean bedpans and change linens. I don't mind the work, it's honest. But sometimes, when I wipe the sweat from my brow, I hear her words echoing, "You'll die poor." I sat on the couch, coffee untouched. My cat finally gave up on breakfast and jumped into my lap. The silence felt heavier than usual. That message, it wasn't just cruel. It was the punctuation at the end of a sentence I never agreed to write. Then, the phone rang. I almost didn't answer. The screen said, "Unknown, NY. Probably spam." But something made me pick up. "Is this Madeline Carter?" "Yes," I said cautiously. "This is Diane from Trust Bank National. We're calling to inform you that you've been listed as the sole beneficiary of an estate that's recently closed." I frowned. "I think you've got the wrong person." "No, ma'am. Your name and number match our legal documentation. The estate belongs to Irene Carter. My mother." "Wait, what?" My voice cracked, just slightly. "The estate's value is $186 million. We'd like to schedule a call with our legal representative to explain the details." I repeated the number aloud, as if saying it might make it real. $186 million. Irene Carter. My mother. The woman who raised us on food stamps. Who reused tea bags and patched socks. Who died with a faded purse and no funeral plan. How? I asked the question, but the woman on the line couldn't answer. "Just legal procedures," she said. She gave me a number, an attorney's name, and scheduled a preliminary video call for Friday. After I hung up, I sat there frozen. Same couch. Same cold coffee. My chest didn't feel heavy, just hollow. Why didn't she ever tell me? Why me and not Marlena? What kind of life did she hide from us? I remembered something then, Mom's locket. She wore it every day. She gave it to me the week before she passed. I hadn't thought much of it. Just an old, worn piece of costume jewelry. I got up, walked to my dresser, and opened the top drawer. The locket lay there, untouched. I picked it up, feeling its tiny weight. It wasn't much, but maybe it had meant something. Maybe it was more than just a goodbye. I didn't call anyone, not my ex-husband, not my best friend, not even my daughter. Especially not Marlena. She'd smell blood in the water the second she found out. That kind of money? It doesn't just change people, it strips them bare. And Marlena had nothing left to hide behind. That night, I sat alone on the porch, the locket clutched in my fist. "Why didn't you ever tell me, Mom?" I whispered. Then my phone vibrated again. I looked down. Another message from Marlena. One word. Liar. The word, liar, still burned on the screen long after it faded. I didn't respond. I just sat there on the edge of my bed, legs stiff, phone balanced in my palm like it had weight far beyond plastic and glass. I kept replaying the call from the bank. The voice, the numbers, the silence that followed. I didn't know what scared me more, the inheritance or the fact that Marlena knew something she shouldn't. I hadn't told anyone. I hadn't even read the full will. But somehow, she was already a step ahead. I scrolled back through old texts. Years of them. Marlena had always used her words like weapons. Not slurs. Just sharp edges wrapped in a ribbon. Don't wear that, it's too young for you. You're lucky the kids even visit. You should be grateful someone married you, even if it didn't last. Back then, I told myself, she's just blunt. But blunt isn't cruel. And honesty doesn't sting unless it's soaked in contempt. The truth is, I'd spent most of my life dressing up her abuse in prettier clothes, called it sarcasm, sass, even sisterhood. But there's no comfort in a knife just because you've held it a long time. People say families are complicated. But sometimes, they're just built on silence and strategy. 2 years ago, we had a family reunion at our aunt's lake house. Nothing fancy, just potluck food and folding chairs. Marlena played the hostess, she always did. She told stories about Mom, about growing up. Everyone laughed. She had this way of making herself the hero without ever saying it outright. I remember her leaning over to my cousin Matt and whispering, "Delia's always been slow with money talk. That's why Dad never trusted her with it." I laughed at the time, because it sounded ridiculous. But now? Now I could hear the intent behind the words. She wasn't just talking. She was planting, shaping the way others saw me, quietly, over decades. It wasn't that I'd been left out of family decisions because I didn't understand them. It was because someone had made sure I was seen as someone who couldn't be trusted with them. And somehow, I'd let her. That kind of betrayal, when it comes from the one person who's supposed to be in your corner, cuts in a place you didn't know existed. Later that afternoon, I was digging through boxes in the attic. I told myself I was looking for something to distract me. But maybe part of me was already searching for answers. There was one box I hadn't touched in years, old holiday cards, yellowed receipts, photos from when we still used film. Tucked inside a plastic sleeve of a photo album was something that didn't belong, a small leather-bound journal. Not a diary, no dates, no, dear whoever. Just fragments, sentences, thoughts left behind like breadcrumbs. One line stopped me cold. If Marlena asks about the Arizona account, say you don't remember. I read it 3 times. It was Mom's handwriting. She hadn't just known Marlena could be manipulative. She'd anticipated it, planned for it, protected me, not by arming me with information, but by hiding it where Marlena couldn't reach it. And it worked. Until now. I flipped through more pages. Notes about keeping the girls apart for their own good. Scribbled phrases like, "She always watches when I write checks." It wasn't a full confession, but it was enough to make one thing clear. My mother hadn't been naive. She'd been navigating a minefield. Memories began to rush in. Moments I'd brushed off now snapped into focus. Dad whispering with Marlena in the garage when I asked about the house deed. Her suggesting I get a budgeting coach after my divorce. Telling my daughter, "Your mom always had a kind heart, just not a sharp one." The more I pieced together, the more the story unraveled. And it wasn't the one I'd lived. It was the one Marlena wrote. That night, I opened a new folder in my email, named it, For Later. I scanned the journal pages. Made voice notes about what the bank said. I didn't know what I was building yet. But I knew I needed a place where my version of things could finally breathe. They say gaslighting isn't about convincing you something's false. It's about making you question what's real. And I'd been doing that since I was old enough to count. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about taking back my name from the mouth of someone who never said it with love. The day slipped into evening. I made dinner, barely touched it. Took a shower, let the water run too long. When I stepped out, the air in the house felt still, like it was holding its breath. Then, 3 soft knocks at the front door. I froze. I waited, heart thudding, but didn't move. A minute passed. Then came the soft sound of paper sliding across hardwood. I approached slowly. A single sheet. Folded. Highlighted. It was a copy of the will. Not the one the lawyer had sent. This was scanned, photocopied, personal. In the margin, written in red ink. Let's see what you do now. Only one person could have known I hadn't finished reading it. Only one person knew how to use a copy of my own mother's final words as bait. I held the paper in both hands. My chest tightened, but not from fear. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel unsure. I felt ready. The sky over Phoenix matched the weight in my chest, low, gray, indifferent. I parked half a block from the attorney's building, sat in the car a few minutes longer than I should have. A part of me hoped for rain, something to match what I felt inside, but the air just hung there, thick, still, heavy. Mr. Calder's office was sleek. Not cold, not warm, just polished, like every surface had been wiped free of judgment. He stood when I entered, his tie neatly in place, his expression one of forced neutrality. I knew that look. I'd seen it at Mom's hospice, in doctors too tired to pretend anymore. "Ms. Lockwood," he said, with a nod. "Thanks for coming in." We sat. He didn't waste time. "There are 2 versions of the will," he said, sliding over a familiar document. This one was filed with probate court. Standard, verified, notarized. Then he pulled another from a manila folder. Same layout, same formatting. Until the last page. "This one," he continued, "was delivered here 3 days ago. Someone claimed it was found in your mother's belongings after her passing." I didn't need him to say who. My eyes scanned the page. The same will, until a handwritten paragraph at the bottom. In blue ink. Marlena's name, scribbled in like an afterthought next to mine. Co-beneficiary. Just like that. My throat closed up. I looked at Calder. "Was this handwriting verified?" I asked. His face didn't change, but his voice did. "It's not your mother's. We compared with dozens of signed documents. The letter shapes are inconsistent, ink pressure varies. Sloppy work, honestly." I wanted to laugh. Of course she didn't even try to get it right. "She brought this in?" I asked. He nodded. "Your sister." I studied the ink again. The letters trembled. "Not Mom's. She forged it," I said quietly. He didn't respond. Didn't need to. "Have you spoken to her since the will reading?" he asked. I shook my head. "No." He reached across the desk and handed me a printed email. This was sent from Marlena's email address. Subject line says, "Urgent request for amendment verification." His finger tapped the page. "Look at the spelling. My name was misspelled. Delia. She's done it all her life. Even in fake grief, she couldn't get it right. She's trying to rewrite the ending," I said. "Sometimes families break," Calder said, "when money meets pride. But this feels personal." He let the moment hang before reaching into a drawer. He pulled out a cream envelope, aged, delicate, sealed with red wax. The wax shimmered faintly in the light. "Your mother left this. For you alone." The initials on the front, H.L. Harriet Lockwood. My breath caught. "She instructed it to be opened by you, and only you," he said. I reached for it with a hand I tried to keep steady. The envelope felt heavier than it looked. "I haven't read it," Calder added. "But she warned, it might change how you see things." I nodded, but said nothing. I didn't open it. Not in front of him. Not in this room where Marlena's lies still lingered. "I'll read it later," I told him. He respected that. No push. No pressure. I walked out with the letter burning a hole in my purse. Driving home, the streets blurred around me. Traffic lights, buildings, trees, I saw them but didn't. My mother's silence echoed louder now. Not weakness. Not submission. It was calculation. A woman waiting until her daughters were old enough to choose their own war. I thought back to that last holiday dinner. She'd leaned in while everyone laughed over pie. Sometimes silence wins louder than screaming, she'd whispered to me. I didn't understand it then. But I do now. She knew Marlena better than either of us admitted. Knew her ambition, her cruelty. And she knew I wouldn't be ready, until now. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. At the corner of my street, the rain started, just a drizzle. It didn't cool anything, just made the world look washed out and tired. As I pulled into the driveway, I saw it, Marlena's silver SUV. Parked like she owned the place. I froze. She stood near my porch steps, holding 2 cups of coffee. Like some Sunday morning routine. Her hair done, jacket crisp, like she hadn't spent the last week scheming in shadows. She smiled when she saw me. A smile I used to know. "Can we talk?" she said, lifting the coffees. I stepped out of the car slowly. No words, just a stare. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. And in that moment, I knew, this wasn't a visit. It was a warning. The silence in my kitchen was heavy, the kind of quiet that holds secrets long after words have died. I sat at the table in Glendale, Arizona, under the soft glow of a single lamp. My mother's old leather journal lay open in front of me, pages creased, ink faded. I held the sealed envelope in one hand, its red wax still untouched. I remembered walking out of Mr. Calder's office with it tucked inside my purse. The initials, HL, had felt familiar, and yet entirely foreign. My mother close, but this letter a barrier. I wondered what she thought when she pressed that seal. Did she hope I would break it? Did she hope I would wait? Because here I was, holding her voice and, beside it, the proof of everything I feared. My heart raced. I read the first line aloud, soft enough that only I heard. "When they ignore you, they're rewriting history." The words echoed in the lamp's glow. I realized then, Mom left me not just money. She left me the truth she never shared. I closed the journal. I steadied my hands. Then I whispered, "What now?" I flipped through the pages, tracing her handwriting. The journal wasn't tidy, it was raw. Notes, fragments of thought, enough to build a map of what had happened behind the scenes. I reached a passage she underlined. I watched her redirect the vote. Another, "You were never missing, you were protected." My blood ran cold. I saw the family reunion, 11 years ago at the lake house. I'd been content to sit on the edge of the circle while Dad nodded when Marlena stepped up and said, "Let's just get this done." I'd laughed it off, thinking I was lucky to be included. Now I saw I was excluded intentionally. I saw invitations I didn't get, signatures missing from contracts I thought were mine. And there was Marlena, quiet in control. She didn't need to dominate out loud, she just set the pieces while everyone applauded. My mother's journal had laid it bare. I pinned the letter and the photo of Mom and me side by side on the living room wall. The teacup sat on the side table like a relic, fragile but real. I thought of Dr. King's words, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." I felt that truth coursing through me, no longer a quiet observer, but someone awakened. The next morning I returned to Mr. Calder's office. I set the journal and the letter on his desk. He looked at them, then looked at me. "You found this," he said. "A statement, not a question." "Yes," I replied. "And I want to know why Mom hid it, and why Marlena tried to bury it." Calder nodded. He opened a locked file, trust documents, ledger entries, account transfers. The numbers were staggering. Large sums moving from the family business into an account held only by Mom, with one beneficiary, me. No joint account. No co-beneficiary. The secret clause from the will appeared in the ledger. The silent proof. I asked, "Why didn't she tell me this?" He answered quietly, "Because silence would keep her safe. But now it will keep you alive." My back straightened. The realization hit hard. This inheritance wasn't just money, it was power. Responsibility. A legacy Mom built with quiet precision. I thought of Marlena's voice when I called, "You'll find out soon enough, Delia." Her laugh hadn't reached her eyes. She was already betting I wouldn't see this coming. But I did. I had no intention of being outmaneuvered again. I left the office committed, not to revenge, but to reclaim what was mine. That evening I gathered Mom's things, her ledger, the photo album, the blue clay teacup she used every morning. I packed them not in boxes of memories, but in crates of purpose. I changed my voicemail greeting to, "Delia Kershaw. Ready when you are." I drafted an email to the bank and attorney. I would assume control of the trust effective today. I wasn't hiding any longer. Money wasn't the goal. Integrity was. I remembered Mom's words, When you're invisible, your power is in quiet action. I let them sink in. Then I looked at my phone. Marlena's number flashed. It lit up again with a message. Mom's home has been broken into. My blood froze. If she touched Mom's things, she touched my legacy. And I would not stand by. I pulled into Mom's house in Peoria just before dawn, the porch light flickering weakly. The front door stood slightly ajar, a detail that hit me like a slap. I stepped toward it, keys in hand, heart ticking too fast. I saw Marlena a few feet away, her arms crossed. She moved only when I walked past. I found it like this, she said, voice too calm for what she was claiming. I glanced into the living room, photo frames tilted, drawers halfway open. Nothing valuable missing, but someone had been searching. I asked Marlena to leave. She didn't argue. That was when I knew, she either saw what was hidden, or she planted the scene herself. The bedroom smelled like my mother's lavender lotion. Dust floated in the slanted morning light. I stepped inside, scanning the room methodically. The jewelry box sat untouched. Mom's shoes neatly aligned, closet doors shut tight. Then I remembered, she always rearranged the painting here every season. That painting, slightly off-center today. I pushed it aside. Behind hung a narrow beige safe, dial locked, fingerprint smudges faint. I tried the year 1917, my grandmother's birth year. The safe clicked open. Inside were documents and a small black cassette tape labeled, "For Delia Only." My pulse jumped. The hidden vault in Mom's bedroom had been real all along. By afternoon I walked to Mr. Rudd's house, old man down the block who still had a cassette player in his garage. I placed the tape in his machine. Click. Then Mom's voice filled the room. "Delia, if you're hearing this, you finally found the safe." She spoke calmly, but I felt urgency in her tone. She explained she suspected Marlena siphoning money from Dad's estate. She'd created a trust in my name only, sealed it in silence so no one could touch it. She named an Arizona land investment, hidden. "They'll come for it, Delia. But it's yours. Do what's right." My vision blurred. I stood there, hearing Mom's voice telling me not just what to do, but who to become. Driving home, tape in hand, I was silent. Every memory of Mom's quiet presence felt different. I no longer saw fragility, I saw strategy. She had outpaced Marlena even when she thought she was losing. I felt grief alongside resolve. I never told her I admired her strength. I never got the chance. Now I had to protect what she built, not to spite, but to honor. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about keeping a promise I hadn't made until now. That night, I opened the door to my apartment and saw a brown envelope slid under the threshold. Inside, a typed note, with a copy of the Arizona land deed. In red ink someone wrote, "You're not the only one who can play games." My breath caught. My legacy had a target. And I realized, this wasn't a legal fight now. It was personal warfare. The morning sun hadn't yet burned off the haze over Phoenix when I stepped into the bank lobby, hand clutching my mother's journal and the sealed letter like they were some kind of holy text. Thaddeus Quinn, the estate attorney, was already there. He wore the kind of suit that told people not to underestimate him, but even he looked tense today. We didn't exchange pleasantries. We just walked straight back to the vault division. He handed the bank clerk a file. Then he turned to me. "There's an account," he said quietly, "opened in your name almost 30 years ago. Funded by a holding company linked to your father's estate, but redirected by your mother." I blinked. "Redirected how?" He didn't flinch. "She funneled your portion into what the bank refers to as a side account. But in your case, Delia, it's your shield." I stared at the screen. Numbers, dates, transfers. All those years, I thought Marlena held everything. But Mom had carved out this pocket of protection for me. "This isn't luck," I whispered. "It's legacy." For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was reacting to their moves. I felt like I had something of my own. Something real. Quinn gave me a nod. "Now you need to decide how to use it." We left the bank an hour later. I should have felt stronger. But I was beginning to understand, legacy is a double-edged sword. And sometimes what you inherit is a war. Later that afternoon, I met Quinn again in his office. He closed the blinds, double-checked the door lock, then pulled out a folder. "I didn't tell you this before," he said. "I've been receiving threats. Phone calls. late-night visitors, and someone tried to pose as my assistant, altered the trust files electronically. He turned his laptop to me. An email chain. A name I didn't recognize had logged into the system using his credentials. Changes made to my trust file 3 days ago. My jaw clenched. Marlena? He shook his head. Could be. But this goes deeper than just your sister. The pit in my stomach tightened. If the system's corrupt, where do I go? Quinn didn't answer right away. Then he said something that stuck. In law, it's not the truth that wins. It's the trail of evidence. I left his office with my hands full, journal, bank records, a copy of the tape transcription. But what I carried heavier than anything was this thought. If I stepped wrong, I wouldn't just lose the money. I'd lose the last piece of my mother's faith in me. I called Marlena the next morning. Calm voice. Steady tone. I've filed for an independent audit of the trust and the fund, I said. She chuckled, the fake kind. Go ahead. You're already late. I hung up without replying. By noon, I had built a timeline. Dad's assets. The split. The investment company. Mom's secret redirects. Marlena's manipulation. I called Rhett Calder, a forensic accountant Quinn recommended. Then I brought on a local media consultant to help draft a press release. It read simply, Delia Kershaw, legal beneficiary of the Providence Trust, announces her request for full transparency in all financial matters related to the estate. The email went out to select press. No drama, no accusations, just the quiet start of a very loud storm. Meanwhile, across town, Marlena's assistant intercepted the alert. She deleted it before it could hit most feeds. But the few that saw it? They were enough. Marlena's mask slipped. Just enough. That evening, I sat at my desk and watched the email analytics tick up. My heartbeat climbed with them. This wasn't about revenge. This was reclamation. But as night settled over my apartment, quiet again, adrenaline wore thin. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, every shadow suddenly too sharp. I thought of what this would cost. What lines I'd have to cross. I remembered something Mom once told me, when you're too polite, they call you soft. When you speak out, they call you loud. Choose the label you deserve. I chose. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One line texted in all caps. Stop now. Or you'll regret it. I stared at the screen. Then typed back 2 words. Try me. I woke up earlier than usual in the quiet of my Glendale apartment, the phone already flashing across the nightstand with alerts. One headline cut through the stillness. Delia Kershaw accused of financial misconduct, see documents inside. My heart stuttered, then steadied. I realized this wasn't a coincidence. Marlena and Sterling had orchestrated a public hit, complete with forged files, planted narratives, and a media machine ready to fire. I sat up, pulled the covers aside, and stared at the ceiling. My mind churned. They wanted the silent girl? They got the strategic woman instead. I rose from the bed, walked to the window, and watched sunrise light creep through blinds. My pulse slowed. I made a decision. I will not be the story. They will be. By late morning I sat in front of my laptop, joined by Rhett Calder via video call. On screen, his face was calm, but I saw what he saw, the data, the vulnerability, the win they thought they'd already taken. I opened my notebook and we walked through everything. The tape with Mom's voice, the ledger and bank documents, the sealed letter, the forged email showing Marlena's misspelling of my name. Rhett leaned forward. Sterling's hack attempts. Marlena's partners in the shell companies. The bank corridors where no one asks questions. I listened. He said, you don't calm the storm by hiding from it, you bring an umbrella built with truth. I let that sentence sink in. Then I told him, prepare the media strategy. We go public tomorrow. I messaged Quinn. Lock everything down, freeze accounts, protect records. Fear was there, the kind that whispers what if you lose it all? But beneath it, a current of exhilaration. I wasn't just fighting, I was taking the lead. In the afternoon I walked into a high-rise boardroom in downtown Phoenix, expecting a conference call. Instead, it felt like a battlefield. Marlena's face popped up on the main screen. Sterling sat beside her, calm, calculated. Marlena began. Ms. Kershaw, we feel there's been redirection of funds through your hidden trust. She slid the forged memo toward the camera. My pulse slowed, veins chilled. I leaned forward, looked directly at the screen. Let's hear the real whistleblower, I said softly. I triggered Rhett's live feed. The video began to play, Marlena's voice, recorded, admitting to asset concealment and manipulation. The virtual room went quiet. Marlena's lips parted for a second, then her smile faltered. I could see worry flicker in her expression. This was more than vindication. This was exposure. I felt vindicated and wary at the same time. Lives would shift now. Relationships would crack. I sat straight in my chair, pulse steady. I was not backing down. As the meeting ended, I emerged from the building into the afternoon heat. My heart pounded. A stranger in the parking garage leaned over quietly and whispered, "You played her." I nodded without words. But inside I knew, this is just the first victory. Marlena still had troops. She still held positions on the board. She could strike where I least expected it. I glanced at the blue clay teacup on the dashboard, a reminder of what I was protecting: legacy, truth, not revenge. My phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. 2 lines of message. "You've stirred hornet's nest." My breath caught. The war wasn't over. I closed the car door slowly, locked it. I eyed the street reflected in my rear-view mirror. Heads turned, shadows stretched long. And when I opened the door again, 2 U.S. Marshals were standing there. "Miss Kershaw, you need to come with us." My pulse peaked. A chill trickled down my spine. These weren't company men. This was federal. I knew in that moment the battlefield had expanded, and I didn't just need to win. I needed to survive. I arrived at the Hyatt Regency Phoenix mid-morning, the grand ballroom full of bank executives, press photographers, family members. A banner hung across the stage reading, "Providence Trust Transparency Forum." My sister was already on stage, poised with her prepared remarks, confidence shining under the lights. I sat in the audience, clutching the blue clay teacup Mom left behind. It steadied me as my heart pounded and my thoughts scattered. When my moment finally came, I walked to the podium quietly, opened with a nod to our legacy, and began speaking of integrity and truth, the things Mom entrusted to me. Then, without warning, the screen behind me went black and all cameras froze. The live stream cut silent. A hush flooded the room. I realized immediately, they pulled the feed. The moderator faltered, cleared his throat, and the audience shifted. They thought by silencing the mic they'd win the narrative. I leaned into the silence, and thought, when they cut off the mic, they think they've won the narrative. I'll win the record. Backstage I met with Rhett Calder and attorney Quinn. Rhett's face looked grim. He pulled up an emergency article on his screen. Kershaw accused of insider maneuvering in Arizona land deal. The piece included doctored images and manipulated quotes. It was all prepared. Quinn handed over a printout of emails between Marlena's PR team and certain journalists. Sterling's name appeared in the chain, promising exclusives in exchange for favoring the narrative. I sat back and felt anger rise. This is the sister I once believed in orchestrating a campaign to destroy me. Rhett leaned in and said, "You don't calm the storm by hiding from it, you bring an umbrella built with truth." I took a breath, then told them, "Let's expose it." Quinn nodded. Documents locked, evidence ready. Fear stirred in me. What if I lose? But beneath it, empowerment, this moment I had trained for. That evening, the live broadcast aired, Rhett's exclusive titled, "Behind the Headlines, How the Lockwood Family Trust Was Tampered With." The video included Mom's cassette tape, bank records, and Marlena's recorded directives to Sterling. The screen flashed Marlena's name, followed by her face wearing a tight smile. Comments poured in across platforms. "Who is Delia Kershaw? This changes everything." My phone buzzed. A message from Anna, Mom's old housekeeper. "She knows you found the safe." A wave of fear rolled through me. The fight had gone public. But I also felt something deeper, just as dawning. Marlena's castle was cracking, and I was standing outside the gate. Night came and I stood on my apartment balcony overlooking the quiet suburbs of Phoenix. The teacup sat beside me, half empty, light catching its edges. I whispered aloud, "Money didn't make her powerful. Her lies did. Now the truth is my inheritance, and my weapon." I decided, not revenge. Accountability. Tomorrow I would release a public statement. I accept my role as beneficiary and I invite transparency, not vindication. As I pulled my computer closer, a ping sounded. An unknown email. One video file. Our family will fall. My pulse shot. Something had escalated beyond family theater. The final choice was unfolding. I typed a response in my mind, "I'll be ready." I clicked on the video file, hands resting heavier than they should on the keyboard. The screen lit up with Mom's face, older, worn, but calm. She was sitting in her garden, sunlight filtering through the trees, voice softer than I remembered. "I know this might tear you girls apart," she said, eyes brimming but steady, "but truth heals." The timestamp was a week before her stroke. It was real. She looked straight into the camera like she knew this would be played after pain had already set in. "Delia, you were always listening, even when no one else was speaking. That's why I changed the will." My chest tightened. I paused the video. For a moment, the room stood still with me. Then I opened the email again. The sender wasn't legal counsel. Wasn't Rhett. Wasn't even Quinn. It was Anna. Her message was short. "Your mother trusted me with this. I waited until you were strong enough." Of all the people who could have held that final piece, I never expected her. But I understood. She had seen more truth in silence than most of us did in noise. I sat back and exhaled. Some battles don't end with applause. Some end with breath and stillness. 2 days later, I met Veronica in Sedona. We hadn't spoken in weeks. Not since the press crushed her reputation. We met outside the cafe Mom used to frequent. Same yellow umbrella. Same smell of cinnamon rolls in the air. She looked different, less polished, more tired. Her voice came slow, words cautious. I didn't waste time. I pulled out my phone, hit play, and turned it toward her. Mom's face filled the screen. Veronica didn't flinch, didn't blink. But when Mom said, "I still love you both," I saw her shoulders drop, just a fraction. She leaned back in her chair and looked away. "She knew I'd betray you," she whispered. "And she still loved me." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I just watched her finally crumble in a way no headline could capture. She admitted it all. The forged memo. The media smear. Hiding the recording. All of it. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, "You still have time to do the right thing. But you can't do it from the shadows." She nodded once. Quiet. Defeated. Human. The next morning, her official statement went public. She stepped down from the trust, issued a full apology, and endorsed the new leadership. I didn't dance. I didn't celebrate. I just felt the ache of something heavy lifting. At the final hearing, the revised will was formally entered into record. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Veronica sat at the back, eyes on the floor. My share remained intact, but with a new stipulation, creation of a foundation in Mom's name. I would oversee it, alongside a third-party board. Veronica's share was reduced but not removed. Some called it mercy. I called it boundary. I read Mom's final statement aloud in that courtroom. "Your greatest inheritance is integrity. If you squander that, even millions won't buy you peace." Reporters gathered outside, asking for quotes. I didn't give them what they wanted. Just said, it was never about the money. Rhett was waiting by the exit. He nodded at me, almost proud. "You didn't just survive this," he said, "you redefined the ending." I let that sit for a moment. He was right. I had. Months passed. I now walk through a community center built by the Lockwood Foundation. The sound of children laughing. Old folks gathered for workshops, on estate planning, family boundaries, digital protection. All the things we never learned in time. A plaque near the entrance reads, "In memory of Grace Lockwood." Sometimes I touch it as I walk by. Not for luck. Just to feel grounded. Veronica teaches ethics now. Court-ordered, but still, she shows up. We don't talk much. But when we cross paths, we nod. No words needed. Some peace is quiet. This week, I gave the keynote at a national forum on financial transparency. The stage was smaller than I imagined. The crowd larger. My voice didn't shake. I ended my talk with something I had only recently come to understand. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's remembering with new eyes. As the lights dimmed, I stepped down from the podium. For the first time in years, I felt free.